Welcome to Truth Seekers.
Hello friends, good morning, and welcome to the Seiker Podcast on Service of Change Radio, where we challenge reality, question that which we've been taught, and hope to inspire a new direction of thought to bring about change. I'm your host, Dennis Nappy II. Today is Thursday, July 16th, 2015. Excited to be here. I have a subject tonight that is going to, or this morning, that's going to hurt your brain to think about, because it definitely did mine. I've come across, through YouTube University, but some fascinating information. I came across it several months ago, but it just sticks in my head that I think I need to talk about it today. It ties into a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. The possibility that we are living in the Matrix, in some type of computer simulation, not just a conspiracy theory, not just that fact that I've seen one too many science fiction movies. I'm going to go into, in my best attempt to explain some of this theory in the next 20 minutes. Obviously, you're going to have to do your own research and decide for yourself, but I'm going to give you a great starting point here, something to look into. Before I jump into that, last night, Joel, Lori, and I, the trio, were back together. We hosted a new Change Cast. The title of it was What is Wrong with the World Today? But that title is a little bit misleading, because we want to get your attention and understanding it's not a doom and gloom podcast. It's more looking at what can we do in our own lives and our own personal reflections to identify the problems that we have and change them. And it's really not that complicated. It may be difficult to face some of these things you need to face, but it's all, or most of it, is within the realm of our control. So look for that this Friday. I'm coming up with a new Changecast schedule where I think we're going to be playing our new shows, because if we do them weekly, maybe we'll play them, for a week straight at a certain time of day, so there's multiple times to listen. And obviously, I'll play them on a loop for several hours on Friday once that comes out tomorrow. So please look for that. We get into some really deep topics, ranging from paying attention to our own internal self-speak, to taking more responsibility, to the actions and responsibilities that we have as human beings on this planet. So let me jump into today's subject here, talking about The Matrix. That movie, for me, I talk about it regularly on this podcast, and I talked about it in my free book, I Am Human and We Are Not Who We Think We Are, because that movie inspired me. And if you're like me, something resonated when I saw that movie, and I dedicated a chapter of my book talking about the significance of that movie. Now, I don't look at that movie as, the work of a prophet or the gospel. I do think, the Wachowski brothers, or the Wachowskis as they're known as now, I don't know what their intention was when they wrote it, but there are time and time again I come back to that movie and I find, wow, that they understood a lot of this stuff that we get into. And there's a guy by the name of Dr. Phil Valentino who talks about the breakdown of the Matrix and all the metaphors within that movie, and he explains it very, very well. It's a really well done talk that he gave several years ago. But that movie inspired my search, because when I saw that movie, I said, yes, I'm searching for a similar answer. And I went out and I looked for Morpheus. I never found him. But that, my point is, it awakened something within me, or reaffirmed something within me, that, hey, the fact that I feel that something's off in this world, I'm not the only one. And if I'm not the only one, to me, that gives it credibility. So I'm going to give, for those of you searching for these answers out there, I'm going to lay a little bit more credibility upon you. Now, I'm going to quote something here. I'm not going to say where the quote's from. See if you can figure this out. We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and will even say that such an impression is a clue that at some past time a variable was changed and reprogrammed, as it were, and that because of it an alternate world branched off. So, is that a quote from the Matrix movie? Absolutely not. It is not a quote from the Matrix movie. In France, 1977, that statement was made by researcher Philip K. Dick, who made those assertions. Now, I'm guessing the Matrix had the creators of the Matrix had knowledge of this man's talk. I came across a YouTube video. The name is escaping me now, but if you subscribe to the Truth Seekers YouTube channel, it's in there under consciousness. I think it's something called The Matrix is Real. So this guy's saying this back in 1997, and according to this YouTube video, they laughed at him. The people he was presenting to laughed at him and said, there's no way that's true. You're nuts. Well, we have more information. We have a theory now that this may be true. We may be living in a computer simulation, and I'll get into that in a minute. I'm going to read another transcript here. Now, this was taken from the 2011 The Theory of Everything conference by Neil deGrasse Tyson, hosted it. And he had on this panel of, I guess, scientists, physicists, theorists, a man by the name of Professor Gates Jr. He's a theoretical physicist, and the man has blown my mind. He had on the screen behind him pictures of equations related to string theory, and he states, buried in them are computer codes, just like the type you find in the browser when you go to surf the web. And Neil deGrasse Tyson asks, your attempt to understand the fundamental operations of nature leads you to a set of equations that are indistinguishable from the equations that drive search engines and browsers. And Professor Gates replies, computer code woven in the fabric of the cosmos, into the equations we want to use to describe the cosmos. So he's saying that the equations we use to describe the cosmos, he has found computer code. And not just strings of bits of ones and zeros. I'm paraphrasing here. He said it is computer code, a special kind of computer code invented by Claude Shannon in the 1930s. So in the equations used to describe nature, he's finding not random ones and zeros. He's finding binary. And he published. He says all this stuff that's published about this. He called it technical gobbledygook. He did write a popular level description in, I want to say, the June 2011 or 2010 British Journal on Physics, British Journal called Physics World. Symbols of Power was the title of the issue. And then this video that I was just watching, there's another panel, I don't know where it's from or who it is, but they talk about a guy by the name of Nick Bostrom from Oxford who gives a simulation argument, who basically says that we are living in a computer simulation. And he makes that argument and states that sometime in the future, people run a simulation program that based on our current data, based on our existence. They'll create a virtual world of the past. And they go in it and they change certain variables to see what would happen. What would happen if everybody got along? What would happen if we inserted this religion at this time period? What would happen if we added this technology to this time period? And every time they change something, a new virtual world emerges. And it's basically a futuristic version of The Sims. So he goes into to explain this theory and how that's a possibility. Now, this theory that and the findings of this computer code, by Dr. Gates or Professor Gates, excuse me, lends a lot of credibility to that possibility that we're living in the Matrix. Now, again, you listen to I talk about Greg Braden quite a bit, who says we are living in a holographic universe, which basically means that no matter how many times you break this universe up into smaller and smaller pieces, you're just going to have another identical copy of the greater big picture. And he talks about, our relationship in the electromagnetic fields and everything of that nature. Now, you shift gears to, I'm a big fan of a researcher, former intelligence agent, why is his name escaping me right now? Dr. Courtney Brown of the Farsight Institute, who was trained by the military in the art or the remote viewing. Okay, and remote viewing is using your mind, your consciousness, to gather verifiable information. They have proven a way. They have scientifically proven, tested, evaluated a way to gather data on any time, any place in existence, basically using simply their mind through a process called remote viewing. Look up the Farsight Institute. You can find all the data and research to back this up. Fascinating stuff. His first book that I read when I was just in high school, called Cosmic Voyage, really, it started this journey for me. It helped start this journey. It was like, wow, there's validation that there is life out there and that there is more to us than we realize right now. We have a greater potential. One of the things he talked about a few years ago was the multiverse theory, or parallel worlds. And he says there's, for every possible thing that can happen, there's a world for that. That does exist. Well, that would lend more credibility or more, circumstantial evidence saying, hey, if we're in a computer simulation and other simulations exist, well, okay, that would explain parallel universes. And there's an infinite possibility of those. That amazes me. That really, we just don't understand who we are or what we are. And then it lends the question, well, if we're living in a computer simulation, who or what created that simulation? And what really gets me is that at a portion of that talk, that discussion with Neil deGrasse Tyson and, and Professor Gates, what Professor Gates said to him, he said, I have in my life come to a very strange place because I never expected that the movie The Matrix might be an accurate representation of the place in which I live. You can find this interview, this panel discussion on the Truth Seekers page on YouTube. There's always links to it on our Truth Seekers Facebook page, TruthSeikers. It's spelled a little differently. It's a different kind of funny story I'll explain another time. But wow, I heard this, my head hurt. You might want to listen to this podcast again. Go find the original sources because I am far from an expert, but I hope to be able to take my limited understanding and present it to all of you just to help, open your mind a little bit more in understanding that reality is not what we think. And this affects everything. And it should affect our relationship with ourselves and our relationship to the universe. Because if we can understand this relationship better, if we can understand the concept of this reality better, and I don't mean we need to get to the level of understanding the code in these symbols that he was taught. There's no way I can understand that right now. Maybe if, with the next 10 years of research, I can understand the 10 minutes of stuff that he spoke about. But they're just smarter than me, But we can take away a general understanding of this, which changes our relationship to the world, which then changes our responsibility to it. Because right now, I don't think we have enough ownership. We don't have enough culpability of things. If we understand this, I think we can do better because we'll have more tools, more of a skill set available to us. Okay? But so many questions come to mind. Again, and number one, I'm big on following my intuition. That movie, The Matrix, resonated with me. It inspired me in such an incredible way. That things I don't even realize until years later that, wow, yeah, I thought this way because of that movie. Am I just caught up in the Hollywood glamour? Well, now we've got a real scientist. It's not just people who sound smart on the internet. We've got a real scientist saying there is more to that movie. Okay, so I think we need to really pay attention to that, and we need to listen to that and do our own homework. And ultimately, like I said, the goal is to change our relationship to things out there. Such a powerful statement. I don't even know where do you go from here? Are things changing? Is there a higher intelligence, or is there someone with more knowledge than us that knows how to manipulate this matrix that we live in? That is a very real possibility, because that's been coming up. If you look at the movie Interstellar, another movie that it brought me to tears. It resonated with things that have happened in my life so much. But they have, I'm going to give the layman's description, but a guy that goes, basically is able to go through time and try to leave clues for his loved one, his daughter, to get it, to influence her. Is that happening to us? Well, sometimes I think yes in my life. I've had these little clues along the way, and I wonder who's leaving these clues. Is there an intelligence out there? It certainly feels like there is, with the way that I'm led to things that happen so randomly sometimes. It has to be, maybe I want there to be, but I really think there's too many coincidences here for me to deny. So what if somebody has negative intentions? Like I said, I think that ultimately, if you read I Am Human and We Are Not Who We Think We Are, I think there's things out there that don't have our best interests in mind. I think we're on some sort of a farm. And if they have just a little bit more knowledge than us and can manipulate this matrix, and David Icke talks about this stuff, they're manipulating it just enough to keep us in the dark and to lead us down this path of chaos and fear and, oh my gosh, there's nothing we can do, or, oh, that's just the way it is. What if we had that understanding of how the game is being played? Now we're leveling the playing field, and that's my goal. We can level this playing field. We just have to do our homework, okay? There is a better way, and we have that potential. Let's realize that potential. Let's access that potential and make that change, be that change. Life can be better. We don't have to have all this suffering. I'm a huge believer in that since launching Service to Change, the people I've spoken with, there's helpers out there, let's be a part of that change. It doesn't need to be violent. It doesn't need to be crazy. I'm on a total rant right now because this topic just totally motivates me, but I'm going to go ahead and end things here. Okay, so I hope I gave you a lot to think about. Please, again, support us at servicetochange.com/bookstore. Our proceeds go to keep this endeavor up and running. You can read I Am Human and We Are Not Who We Think We Are free of charge. I highly encourage it by signing up for the Seiker newsletter at servicetochange.com/IamHuman. Follow us on the social media feeds, facebook.com/servicetochange, facebook.com/truthseekers. You can also find us on Twitter, and you can hit me up at Dennis Nappy II. I'm also on Google+. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Again, get our free app, servicetochange.com. Just save it to your home screen and listen to Service of Change Radio all day, every day. Right now, the Seiker Podcast is playing, and we also have their Change Cast running on a loop, and we have new shows. We have people putting in applications for shows to join the network. This is growing. This is going to be big. We are going to change the world. Please be a part of this movement of positive change. Thank you very much. Again, from Service to Change, where small changes among the masses can have a massive impact around the world. I encourage you to be that change, never stop questioning, and keep an open mind. Thank you.
Welcome to Truth Seekers.